this was crazy to me. The most cringy thing to me was when Megan Fox comes out to me.
Oh gosh.
Was when she comes out to meet Jimmy, and Jimmy comes out looking like this. and somehow
he's appalled because she doesn't look like Megan Fox enough.
And I'm like, Jimmy.
For those of you listening, Chelsea's holding up her thumb with a drawn smiley face. Not even a smiley.
For those of you listening, Google Spy Kids thumb guys. Like, you know what I mean?
Floops Fooglies.
You guys, I'm so sorry to do floops fooglies like that because they don't deserve it. But honestly, I'm just like, Jimmy, be for real.
Jimmy is so bland, but yet he thinks he's the hottest shit.
He's a vanilla baby, and he will not choke you. I'm telling you.
Hey, this is Brandon.
And this is Chelsea.
And welcome to the Religious Dropouts.
And this is a little bit wackadoodle because for the first time in season 2, we don't have a guest for you, but it's intentional.
Intentions.
Because we thought you'd just want to catch up with us. So we thought, how are you guys doing? How are you guys doing? Tell us. Give us the tea.
We'll wait.
Yeah. Arms of... Wait, speaking of we'll wait, have you seen the TikToks of Steve from Blue's Clues? I swear I brought this up before and you're like, who? And he does those TikToks where he's like, hey, old friend, how are you doing?
Yeah, have you seen that everybody else is doing that now?
Really? No, I haven't.
Elmo tweeted and people are like, Elmo tweeted, everyone is like, how are you guys doing? And people are like, well, Elmo, my student debt's high. Like,
really shitty. Really fucking shitty, Elmo.
Okay? Can't find a house.
Wish getting tickles was the biggest problem here.
And I just saw that Barney did one too.
I shared that. Barney was, but his was just like, I know things aren't as easy as when we were on the playground, but I want you to know that you're loved and you're worthy. I'm like, you fucking dinosaur, man.
You got me.
You little purple guy.
I love you and you love me.
And we are family.
Fuck yeah, we are.
Oh, so I wanted to open this up with this super cute thing I read. So I'm obsessed with this book. We've brought it up like 100 times, but there's this part of it and it's like way too long. I'm only going to read like this little chunk, but it's the chapter on this book. It's called Erica's. So if you're reading this book, it starts on page 115 or 113 it starts. But anyway, this little section real quick, it says, we can only control what we don't trust. We can either control ourselves or we can love ourselves, but we can't really do both. Love is the opposite of control. Love demands trust. I love myself now. Self-love means that I have a relationship with myself built on trust and loyalty. I trust myself to have my own back, so my allegiance is to my voice that's within. I'll abandon everyone else's expectations and opinions. So my allegiance is to only my voice. Before I'll ever abandon myself. I'll disappoint everyone else before I'll ever disappoint myself. I'll forsake all others' opinions before I'll ever forsake myself. Me and myself, we are death till us part. What the world needs is more people who have quit fearing themselves and started trusting themselves. What the world needs is masses of people who are entirely out of control. And I just thought that was like the most beautiful little, I don't know, I just felt really when I read that chapter, I know without reading the full chapter, it can be kind of tough.
No, it was really good.
I was like, what a beautiful reminder that like sometimes when we're in the church, we're like so conditioned to feel like we have to be in control. And we have to be really prim and proper. And
I have to hate myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what's funny, Chelsea, is like we recently played this game where your friends have to, it's a board card game that, I purchased and make everyone else play. But we had to rank Brandon's top 5.
Yeah.
And it had all these other things, and one of the cards was yourself. And I'll be honest, there weren't a lot of other like if it was like board games, coffee, like maybe I would have struggled to like rank like what my number one was, but everyone was like, oh, Brandon might not like might like himself or whatnot, so that might be up higher. And it was my number one. And people like Jackie were like, no, Brandon likes who he is.
Yeah.
And I think that feels like vain, but to Glennon's point, like I love the beautiful mess that I am.
Yep.
Like I really like who I am, who God's crafted me to be. It's taken me a while to get there, but
it's taken me a lot of church trauma breakthrough to feel that. Like, because that's really like, I think that's what's so hard is I have conversations with a lot of people who are like, who that's not true. I've had a few conversations with people who have framed it to me like, it feels like you blame a lot of things on the church. And I'm like, no, I give the church blame where the church is due. And the church really is at blame for really making me feel like I was always too much. Like, and always making me feel like there were so many parts of me that, and I think to your point, Brandon, like even parts of you, I will never forget the conversation we had really, really early on to knowing each other. And I remember you saying something to me like, oh, here's another men's retreat. And I was just kind of like, yeah, those kind of seem fun. Like, I don't know. And you're like, and I didn't think anything of it. And then you were like, oh yeah, because I love hunting and freaking like shooting a bear and roasting it on the fire. Like, and I'm just like, wait, what? And I never realized, like, to your point, you were making this point, like, the only way to be a man in the church is to be this type of man. Like, that's it. Like, that's, if I'm not this type of man, I don't fit. Like, you know, and I'm like, like, and I just never like, and it's like, so if you don't fit in this box, and that's exactly how like it can feel. And so when I read chapters like that, when I read books like Untamed and some of the places that a lot of the people we interviewed this season, it's like, you get these glimpses and these pieces and these moments in these safe places of remembrance that like, when we get to be wild and kind of out of control, we really get to like fall in love with who God's like actually made us to be. Like the real versions of who we are, you know?
Yeah.
So.
You know, now I'm just so gung-ho for trying anything like counter toxic masculinity. So I'm like, I know I should order a beer at this brewery, but
I'll get a martini.
Is that slushy back there, the alcoholic?
Me too. Okay, me too. And I'm the opposite. I'm just like, is that a lumberjack beer? I'll take one. And I know I'll hate every second.
They literally started passing. Cody and I went out with my mother-in-law, with Cindy, and they started passing this Freesia, which is like a sangria but frozen. They started passing it to her, and I was like, I'm sorry, that's mine.
Yeah, excuse me. Over here. Thanks.
That fruity drink, I really need it. And It's so good. It was so good.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, totally.
Anyways, What's been going on in your world, Chelsea?
Dude, I'm just out here living. I'm just out here living. Not much, you know, I'm just working a ton. I've been at a new gym now. It's been like, I think like 7 months or something. I don't know, like it's been a while. So feeling really good there, still at Oaks, doing a lot of work at Oaks. We're kind of coming up to like really, really heavy grant season because like for our fiscal year, a lot of our grants are like in the spring. So for anyone that works nonprofit, I don't know, like if like when your guys' like grants kind of come, but there's like a grant opening time right now. So like all those grants that you like couldn't apply for in the winter, like all those cycles are opening up, and I'm like, oh, kill me. So I'm starting to feel some dread from that and stuff. But you know, I know we're wrapping up season 2 of the podcast here and getting ready to kind of soon start to dream about season 3. And so that I know we'll have a little less stress with the podcast here soon. And I know the grant season will slow down soon and things like that. So, but what's been going on with you? You got school going on now. Work's still been ramping up. You got an event this week. What's going on?
Work is wild. Busy. I think I keep understanding it at like a better level, you know, now that I'm like 9-10 months in. So it makes it to where like I can see the gaps that I can step into. So that's really a challenge for my personality because I am willing to help so many. As you know, like I can fall into like yes to everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, taking care of school, two courses, so I'm at like 6 credit hours, which somebody is on here is like, I'm at 18. But it's a lot. I'm really like, oh, so my Monday and Tuesday are gone, like as far as post work, and then the rest of the week I have to find 2 more nights to do work, to like to study and to submit the homework. So
yeah, no, for sure.
You know, I'm encouraged by my professors being like, "Hey, C's get degrees," and I'm like,
"You don't gotta tell me. Does a D get a degree? Because that's fine too. You just tell me."
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So many of these letters rhyme with degree that it just makes it really challenging to know that.
Exactly.
You know, we're having fun. Like we went to a drag bingo this morning. Like that was fun.
So cool.
You know, we're also just living, Jackie and I. So it's been good.
So cool. So cool. Yeah. I love that. So we're kind of gonna start. I know we kind of said it was kind of funny, you know, Brandon and I were kind of talking. We do have a couple more guests to close up this season. A really big thing for us was we really wanted to have like 10 episodes for season 2. But we just kind of felt like it was really weird to go 10 episodes and never like talk to you guys. So this is kind of like that little buffer episode. And then we've got 2 really, I think, what might possibly close out our season of final guests for you guys that are coming in the next couple of weeks. I don't think we're going to share those here yet, but we've got them coming. And so, but I know, Brandon, we're just kind of going to recap some of our faves and kind of what we felt about this season. And so I don't know if you want to start but we just kind of want, and maybe if you've missed the guests, this might kind of be, these are just really Cliff's notes. We're not going to like describe every but to just kind of run through some of our favorite little things about each guest, and we'll be kind of brief, and I think it'll be fun. So
I think, let's start with episode 1. That was with Kevin Garcia.
I said, if God will not love me, I will love me.
Yeah.
And that will set you free. That's when I actually discovered that's the love of God right there.
Literally.
Is the love that you choose to give to yourself despite whatever the fuck you think about yourself. You know, despite how the world defines your value, or, you know, despite what the trauma has done to your body or to your mind, if you can love you no matter what, that's the whole thing.
Just wildly authentic as a human being. I think the woo-woo vibey ass bitch. I just think they were so fun to pick their brain and to hear their story. What do you think, Chelsea?
Yeah, I love them a lot. I love the woo-woo vibey ass bitch is so funny because I just remember that story from the very beginning of ever following them on social media. I remember that. So that's just so funny. But yeah, I agree with you on the authenticity. The stories that Kevin shared, the way that they show up on social media, the way they showed up in that interview. I just think that is one that I think I'll go back and listen to that a couple of times. Even when I feel like I'm struggling to listen to God in the way that I know God, and like in the way that I know and trust the Spirit when I'm struggling with that, I think I'll hit play on that Kevin episode and really remember to like trust myself and to trust like what I know about God, you know, because I feel like that's really what they reminded us in that episode.
I agree. I think Kevin just always would reference back to his entire like story or narrative is just listening to the Holy Spirit and being authentic to who you are and like who God has called you to be.
Yeah.
I thought it was incredible. And oh man, that scheduled exorcist
dude, that ending story, like it's funny though, because as they were sharing that story about the scheduled exorcism, I was thinking in my head, I've had pastors that have shared things like that with me. like I'm just like, bro.
Chelsea, I'm going to fire you. Do you have time next Thursday?
Dude. We've been through some shit. Like, dude. So to me, Spencer-Helms.
I come from heritage that believes in a God that can break in. And this shit I've been giving is actually like stealing life from me. but that is not the story of my mother or my ancestors or my grandmother. They weren't evangelicals, but God was real, right? So it was like very much an anchoring thing that I felt like I needed to state in the book before we go on this journey of like meeting white Jesus, so that, you know, like white Jesus is not necessary at all for me having a vibrant or a robust theological or life of faith. After I dumped white Jesus, like what was I headed back towards? Well, it was back towards a divine being that hears me and sees me.
They were just an incredible. One of the things I'll share, you know, it's really funny. We talk about pronouns a lot on this show, especially with our guests. And one of the things I thought that was super beautiful about Tamice, and you can hear this in the episode when we talk with her about her pronouns, is we said, you know, how do you kind of want to be addressed? And they said very openly, I love being a Black, powerful woman. I love being able to claim that identity, but I also, in my gender and in my own self-discovery and in who I feel like as a person, my gender and the way I feel is very fluid. It's very they, them, and those are my pronouns. And so I remember sitting and thinking, wow, like that's beautiful. And that's very different than anything I'd been told before. And so I just thought Tamice brought a lot of that. Tamice brought so many moments for me where I was like, wow. And the ability for them to combat racism in such an abrupt, I mean, they held nothing back. And I remember putting the clips together for the reel on TikTok, and I was like, like I'm like, they left no crumbs. Like it was so good. It was so good.
Yeah, I think one of the first things that what I appreciate about her is the white Jesus is not my Jesus.
Yeah.
She said it so much better and so much funnier. But I think that was I think that is an epiphany that can be an on-ramp for a lot of people into like questions and doubt. And not doubt in a bad way, doubt in like, we've got to grow. Like, and you don't grow if you don't ask questions. And I think, I hope that when people listen to Tamice, that they hear that, that they're encouraging them to deconstruct some of those things that we were told about how like Jesus is white or he's had this specific experience, and that's just not true.
Yeah.
I appreciate that she encouraged us as much as she did. That was a gift that we didn't really, that we did not ask her to come on the podcast for, but the way that she encouraged us like was a real gift to me. And to continue to, as we don't always have the right words around race, to continue to keep trying, and to keep being safe spaces in these areas. So
yeah, amen. Yeah.
Oh, and her choice of rapper Jay-Z to be also named like influential artist of the year or something at the Grammys.
Yeah.
I was thinking about her at the Grammys for sure.
I bet you were. Yeah, you guys love the little musicals. I love that for you.
Courtney Gill.
Like the nail in the coffin was what happened at that camp. Mm-hmm. I remain still like very convicted about, like, I believe that the way of Jesus is the way that I want to live. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I believe that if we live in that way, like that's the hope of the world.
Friend, love her. Queen. Episode 3 was just so fun.
Yeah. I think it was so personal for us, for sure. And I think I was worried about engagement a little bit. And I think like after we left that day, you know, I just kind of thought like, you know, is our audience going to be able to connect? Are they going to listen? Are they going to care? And I thought it was really cool. I got a lot of messages about that episode from people who needed it, from people who really appreciated it. And I will always and forever, and Brandon, you've said this from day one too, really appreciate Courtney's ability to communicate. And I just think it was such a blessing to be able to have her in this space. And so it was awesome. It was so awesome.
Courtney, I think towards the end of that, She said, if church or the Christians show you who you are, believe them, or something, or you said it and she sung it.
Was saying, yeah.
But either way, that defines that episode to me, because I think like it will ring in my head when I'm encountering someone, because honestly, sometimes when you I think go down these roads of like loving others, believing the best in others, I think like sometimes you can be gullible to the people that don't want to see you thrive, that would rather see you destroyed. And I know you as my best friend has been like, Brandon, are you sure you want to continue to reach your hand like out to so and so or so and so, like and I know there's other people concerned for me like that. Like Jackie is always like ready to fight people that have hurt me. And I continue to be like, yeah, I think I know the risk, but I'm continuing to like, but Courtney challenges me with that phrase to be like, oh, if they keep showing me who they are, maybe it's about time.
Yeah.
I believe.
Well, and
that's
Courtney
really
shared stories from like knowing, when we had that conversation, she was sharing even board meetings that she had long before, what we shared in that episode, the traumatic event. If you go back and listen to that episode, you'll kind of know what we're talking about, which is why I said, right, we're not going to break down all these episodes, but what kind of led to that big event. She even shared that she was seeing who so many of these people were long before the catastrophic, or the catalytic, if you will, event happened. She was seeing converter. She was seeing
flux capacitor.
She was seeing who these people were, but she was still just thinking, it's my job and it's God's call, and it,
are we meant to be, as we follow the call of God in our lives, are we meant to have people walk on us a little bit? Like, like I remember a pastor saying that he continued to pray for God to make him a bridge. And then he was like venting like months later to a close friend that like people were walking over him. And then he's like, oh, well, you prayed for it. I know that that's really Christian cheesy, but
I swear to God.
But Chelsea, isn't there a tension of like I think this is mine to do, and then also like it sucks because then you're exposed to like people that continue to take advantage.
We just had a conversation too with someone where we were like, God wants you to live a life, like have life, and came to bring life and give you life to the fullest. And it's like, bro, if God really wants you to have this life and live this life in this way where you bring peace and you're a peacemaker and you have this like light about you and you're different, right? If you're a Christian, you're set apart and all these things. If that's true about you, then you're not going to be being abused by these church people and taking this hurt and being this bridge that you're getting walked all over. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's just like the tension is it always easy? Absolutely not. Is it abusive? Absolutely not. You know what I mean? So that's where I think it's really like, but the church really conditions you to believe like it's going to be hard. And by hard, they mean you're going to get the shit beat out of you. You're going to stay in it though, because that's God's call. And it's like, wait, take it back. Like that's not, you know what I mean? They it's very manipulative. It feels like, and it's not true, but that's what they make you believe, that carrying your cross isn't the hardship of, having really hard conversations with non-believers or having really tough conversations with your family that might believe differently than you, or, carrying your cross in some of those situations. They make you believe that carrying the cross is like, having your boss like have horrible confrontational conversations with you about your hours. And like, I mean, you know what I mean? I don't know. It's hard to think of examples now, but saying that you can't mention gay people in your prayers from the pulpit, like just the crazy.
Not wanting to share the restroom with,
not wanting to expand the building to make it handicap accessible. Like, that's carrying your cross. You got to deal with that because it's hard. And it's like
a good fight.
Yeah. It's like, no.
So episode 4, Matthew Paul Turner.
I wrote the words, you, when God sees you, God delights in what is and sees only what's true. that you, yes, you, in all of your glory, bring color and rhythm and rhyme to God's story. So be you, fully you. A show-stopping review. Live your life in full color, every tint, every hue. And I remember writing those words, and Chelsea, I just wept.
I wept reading those words.
Just wept.
I love Matthew. I love Matthew.
Me too.
He is honestly such a good person, and he is such a great dad. And his social media is so awesome, and he just does such a good job at reaching people. And he just does such a good job. Like, if I think of someone who speaks for God, like, he does such a good job speaking for God, like making people feel held and loved. God, dude, like, and even my own daughter, like, my daughter's favorite books are Matthew Paul Turner's books. Like, and so getting to sit with him, like, so my favorite part of that was when he was reading his book to me. When he was reading the parts of the book that he wrote, where he finally kind of realized, like, and to hear that from him was just like, it got me.
That was wildly good. That recording, like, I missed that recording, but I've got to say, like, I was listening to it, and then I would listen to it again because I edit it, and then I listen to it again because I proof it. Like, and I'm like, this episode, I really, like, think it's one of my favorites, even though I'm not in it. But I'm like,
I hated it. I hated that you weren't in it, but I felt that way too. Like, I felt like, oh my God, this conversation felt so intimate. I hate that Brandon's not here. Like, I hated that moment. I was so bummed, but I'm like, but I also just felt like, oh my God, it was like, it just felt like such a,
so life-giving.
Yeah.
It was so life-giving. And I think, like, he had an energy about him. Like, when you say that I'm not shocked, because, like, when he represents God to you, because I think, like, or he's one of those people where you see God on them, or whatever you want to say. Yeah. I think, like, oh, I feel that, because, like, that really encouraged me, challenged me. I learned from his story that the way that his children's books connected with me, just as an adult, like, I'm weeping, like, I'm like, it was wild. Like, yeah.
I love
that. And the way that him and his wife, his then wife, like, are not, like, him telling that story, and then how they're, like, good co-parents now.
They just went on right after we filmed that episode, like a month after we filmed that episode. They just took, like, their family trip to Germany together. and they were all like, and I was just like, this is so beautiful. Like, it's such a beautiful representation of family.
For sure. The people writing him being like, you're a bad dad for doing what you're doing. And then, like, he's like, you don't know me. Like, I'm taking care of business at home. And it's like,
crazy.
That is the stuff that, like, I think contributes to him just having such a beautiful story. Yeah, that was a great episode. Best one without me.
That is the best episode we've ever had without you. The best episode the Religious Dropouts have ever had without you.
Hands down.
So it was super crazy. Paula Stone Williams.
So I'm a pastoral counselor. My doctorate's in counseling. I cannot tell you how many clients I've had who were profoundly abused, usually by their fathers, usually religious. And they get to the point where they're ready to confront the perpetrator. And they say to me with some confidence and a lot of naivete, they say, I know the family will get behind me in this because they all saw it happen. They all know it happened. And I'm the one who has to say to them, oh, yeah, actually, no. You're going to be twisting in the wind all by yourself. Because even though it's a corrupt family system, the people in that system care more about belonging to the system than they do to the truth.
Literally.
And it's not about what's true and what's not true. It's about what allows me to belong, what does not allow me to belong. And most people do not have the ego strength to be able to stand on their own with the truth. Their ego need is much, much too great.
Never in my life thought that we were going to get to record with Paula Stone Williams. That was it's still so surreal to me. And honestly, very weird episode for me because Paula Stone Williams is transgender. And like, that is all a public story. Her public book is out. She's, you know, she spent, I believe, I don't know how many years, but she says that in her book. She writes how many years she spent as a white male, and is now a white woman. And you are sitting and you're interviewing, and it feels like a white male. That presence, her energy is so different. Her energy is so different because, and she knows that, and she's talked about that. She's talked about that from the stage. She's talked just the energy and the presence that she brings from spending so many years as a male is so different. And so that interview for me, it was very much, she's very to the point. She's very black and white. She's very unemotional, but I thought it was so beautiful for our listeners. And I think like that's the beauty of having guests, because it's like, my God, if you have a podcast and it's only the same voices all the time, and no offense, but that's why I don't listen to very many podcasts, because it's like, that's not what I want from you. I want to hear from different voices and different people. And so I just felt like Paula is someone that I probably would never go to the mall and go shopping with. I don't know that Paula and I would ever be that caliber of friends, genuinely. But to share a space with her and her wisdom and her communication, I mean, it was hard to even want to speak, because she was so smart and so talented, and it was just incredible. It was incredible.
I remember coming off of that recording, and I went into the other room and talked with Jackie, and just like ranted, I think for 35 minutes probably, just about Paula's wisdom, and how she, you know, she'll be the first one to say, like, I want to encourage people. I want to call out the orthopraxy of Christians, which is like how they're acting, and not so much the orthodoxy, which is like how they believe what they believe.
Yeah.
But in that episode, you'll see like she knows how she believes what she believes.
Absolutely.
And I loved that window, but then I also loved that she didn't stay there, and she like she spoke to her experience and encouraged us, and didn't always give us the answer that we maybe wanted. Like, I don't know about you, Chelsea, but I remember the moment where
I was crying.
Where she says like, where you asked her like, Chelsea, like, or you said like, would you encourage somebody to like to come out in order to embrace who they are? And she said, I don't know if I would, because it was just so hard. I wouldn't. Yeah.
And I was sobbing. I was just sobbing. And I think that was like, as a queer person myself, like I think any queer person, especially Matthew Paul Turner and Paula Stone Williams, those two episodes, any queer identifying person, I mean, anybody, anywhere, right? But those two episodes for me, because Paula Stone Williams just opened up such a different perspective, especially for queer people that are in the closet, and struggling, or, you know, or queer people who've come out and had a hard time, or, you know, but yeah, her story, it just unbelievable. So, but yeah, it was great.
And scientifically, she's wild. She knows some stuff now about gender and sexuality. Like, so that's a great episode.
I think it was really cool too. And this is the last thing I'll say, because I mean, I think we could talk about Paula forever, genuinely. But I really do think with her too, the crazy thing was that she didn't spend any time talking about church, like at all. Like, out of all of our guests, you know, so many of our guests, we want to talk about religious trauma. That's our whole podcast, right? Is really coming from this place of like, what's your religious experience? And let's talk about it. Let's go through this world. Let's go through this like life together. And Paula was just like,
that's not my call.
Yeah. She literally was just like, let's instead talk about like science, and let's talk about really like the reality of coming out. Let's talk about like genderism.
I'm going to advocate politically for gender equality. Like, you know.
So I just thought that was crazy. As I listened back to that episode, I was like, this is not at all what I wanted the episode to be, and it's amazing. 10 out of 10. We'll listen again. Anyway.
So, episode 6, the pastor, Heather Boone.
You know, honestly, I had a young lady one Sunday. She sang a solo on Sunday and overdosed and died on Wednesday, and I had no idea she was even struggling with addiction.
Wow.
So those are the things as a pastor, you're like, wait a minute, I'm missing the mark.
Yeah.
And so that was when I knew, because I was just a drive-in pastor.
Yeah.
I knew I needed to come, immerse myself in the community, you know, really be like Jesus and dwell among the people.
In the spot at Oaks of righteousness. So, or Oaks Village. So
I noticed a couple times, like, some of the things she would say as I listened to the episode. It's like, she's such a pastor, you know? But I loved that you just,
I know every time you started to get wild, she was like, now Chelsea, they might donate. So we love Meyer, or we love the church down the road.
I'm so dead. Yeah. But you know, what I was reminded of as I was listening to that episode too, like, cause you know, it'd been a while since we recorded it, is I was thinking, like, as I was listening, I was just reminded that, like, you just can't deny someone's faith when they do what she does. like you just can't, you cannot tell me, like, well, God's really a piece of shit, while I'm watching somebody like her literally make sure that no one sleeps without a place to lay their head. It's like, nah, you can't tell me, you know? So it's just
there
like,
are people that make it hard for you to say, F all pastors. Do you know what I mean? And you'll never be able to say that after you meet Heather. Yeah.
So I loved it. Yeah.
Heather, for me, I think I just will always cherish that episode, because I will appreciate the effort she's put in Monroe for homelessness. And you see that time and time again of projects she took underway, faithfulness when she had adversity. Like, so for knowing that, the human of her, I'll always, like, be so grateful.
And that was probably her last podcast interview as I mean, she's done it in a couple weeks. So
I don't mind sitting next to you as you get emotional too, like as your pastor and your leader lead. Like, I'm like,
I can't believe it.
I'm not like making fun of you, but you do kind of grin when your best friends get a little teary. You're just like,
that was rough. That was rough. Cause you don't realize it. And then you're sitting there talking about it and you're like, I'm a die in the streets. You know, the one thing I was going to say too, as we kind of, like, we're getting into, you know, cause obviously we have two more guests coming for you, but our final guest that we had up to this point that you guys have heard is Teresa and Ken Garner.
One of the things that Brian McLaren said in Richard Rohr's Center for Action and Contemplation today was exactly what I have felt. He said the struggle is to have a faith that isn't an evacuation plan or an escape into private bliss, but a way of seeking to have a spiritual transformation in our own lives that will express itself in change and transformation in our world. I felt like our denomination became this place that was always preparing for evacuation of the planet, instead of how do I live as a transformative agent in this place that I have been born into, and I only have a few years, but how do I become this place of transformation in my own heart and also in this community where I live?
And, you know, I just want to say, when we had them on the podcast, I was telling Brandon, it almost felt like a people exclusive interview kind of situation, because up until our podcast, Teresa and Ken really, and even on their own social media and in their own circles, really had not spoken to anyone about what had happened to them. You know, Teresa being at the university that she was at, we're not going to name it because I don't believe she named it in the episode, so we won't do that here. You can do your own research. But after being really, like, excommunicated and, like, really removed from the university, whatever happened, because they're, you know, trash. And then after what happened to Ken at the church, because they're trash, because of them really affirming all students in the life of all students, they really went silent. You know, I mean, they really, they created their website and their podcast and their platform. So they didn't go silent in that way, but they really took the high road in like the most beautiful way, because it's who they are. And I hated that. And so I was really thankful that we got them on the podcast, and they still took the high road on the podcast. You know, there's so much they could have said.
We tried to bring them down here to the low roads and
hallelujah, Jesus Christ. But you know, but it was
that's
just
why
like,
so many people leave us on hold when we start calling, being like, "Hey, can you be a guest?" They're like, "No, I can't do it." Brandon Chelsea will want me to spill, and they just won't.
Carla Sundberg, where are you at? You know what I mean? I tried. I'm just kidding. I did think about DMing her the other day, like, yo, Carla, it'd be nice. But I'm like, you just couldn't say anything. Like, you couldn't say anything. There's no way. But with them, I just thought it was really cool that they, number one, agreed to talk openly about what happened to them.
Yeah.
And that they talked about it with such dignity and grace. Like, and they've been so wronged and so hurt and so like screwed. Yep. And they still just, you'd never know. You really wouldn't know.
Custom house savings, all those kind of things, like retirement, like all that. And I know those are like the monetary stuff, but like I think that's the aspect that people don't see about the character of the that you have to have to stand with marginalized communities.
Absolutely.
And I'll always have the image in my head, burned in my head, no pun intended, of them hosting a campfire of students of all genders and sexualities around this campfire, and just thinking like they sat and listened and exchanged stories, like and that image will always be something that I wish I could have experienced with them.
And Ken even shared, like, you know, he said something like, we're sitting at this bonfire with all of these LGBTQ college students, and Ken's like, and I'm knowing like God loves all of them. Like Ken was like having that experience.
Yes.
And it's just, it's just so gut wrenching to hear like another story of the kingdom of this like terrible situation where the kingdom should have been at work protecting them and those students. In reality, the Nazarene church is busy protecting their image and kicking them out. And, you know, it's just like, the kingdom will come, thy will be done. Like, I'm convinced. I mean, I really am. And we're just gonna, you know, I mean, we're gonna keep talking about it until, but.
Well, I think because of work like that, there'll be days where those common spaces, I have to believe that those common spaces where students are already hanging out with on campus, there'll be spaces where LGBTQ plus students will be able to share their stories openly on campus instead of at a darkened backyard with a campfire. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it won't
I
be
have to believe that
but as soon as he gets out, yeah,
I know. Well. Yeah. Great 7 episodes, Chelsea. I'm so proud of our second season so far.
Me too. And we've just put so much work. Like, it's just been so cool. It's been, I'm really proud. I'm just really proud of this work. I'm really proud of this podcast. And, you know, I told Tyler last night, we were sitting in the living room, and I'm like, it's just really cool to see every week there's a new follower, there's a new listener, there's a new DM. Like, there's never a week, and sometimes there's not a day that goes by where someone doesn't message me and say something about the podcast. And it's just like, even if we're not flourishing with, you know, 40 new listens a week or whatever, you know, we'd love for this to be growing a ton, but we also don't have the time in this season that we wish we could to grow it that way. And so to be putting the time we're putting in and still seeing people finding this community as a safe space and coming to it has been like just the greatest blessing. And I'm just like so thankful. It's just so awesome. Awesome. So wait, really quick before we go though, I know we're running low on time, but we really need to, Brandon's going to read a little excerpt, but we really need to do a quick Love is Blind recap, like real fast. We have to, it's necessity. So we did this before. We're watching Love is Blind. If you're watching Love is Blind, stay tuned real quick. Brandon, initial reactions. Do you have a favorite couple? They've all met each other now that you know. and this is like spoiler alert, because Brandon's at the part where they're at the resort now, or they're at their little home now. So
I love to hate. I watch this thing. I mocked it the entire time. Jackie is eye rolling / punching me. She does not like it, but I'm like literally like it is so hard not to troll these people because they'll say
the whole thing. I hate
the wildest things. I mean, of course, there's nobody red, white, and blue, but like you watch these guys like deflect. You watch them like I think the most cringy part.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Was I don't know who is KD dating right now.
Oh, AD.
AD, yeah. Who's AD dating?
The black girl.
Yeah.
Who's she dating? Oh, Clay, the black guy.
The scariest thing was when Clay was in the pods, and she had said that she was weighing some options because that's the show, and he just flipped out like, I'm here. You don't like none of the stuff I'm saying to you, and I'm like, that was not what she was saying.
This was crazy to me. The most cringy thing to me was when Megan Fox comes out to me.
Oh gosh.
Was when she comes out to meet Jimmy, and Jimmy comes out looking like this, and somehow
he's appalled because she doesn't look like Megan Fox enough.
And I'm like, Jimmy.
For those of you listening, Chelsea's holding up her thumb with a drawn smiley face. Not even a smile.
For those of you listening, Google Spy Kids thumb guys. Like, you know what I mean?
Floops Fooglies.
You guys, I'm so sorry to do floops fooglies like that because they don't deserve it. But honestly, I'm just like, Jimmy, be for real.
Jimmy is so bland, but yet he thinks he's the hottest shit.
He's vanilla baby, and he will not choke you. I'm telling you. Like, nothing. But also, it's crazy because Jimmy is just, it's very perplexing. I have so many questions about Jimmy, but I'll tell you guys what. Those were our cringy moments from Love is Blind. We'll be sharing another cringy moments as the season.
Oh my gosh, a spin-off episode.
It's so important because we do have, as Brandon pulls up this page, we do have like 4 of you when we that have talked about Love is Blind. Like, I know you and I see your Instagram stories and you guys are so in it. So I know you'll really appreciate this part of the episode. So I'll be sure to send this to your DMs so you make sure to watch it.
So this is from Kate Bowlers. Have a beautiful, terrible day.
We tried to get her as a guest, so you guys should DM her and tell her to come on the pod.
Oh, please do that. This is called Seeing God Everywhere. This world feels solid through and through. Nothing is more obvious than who's in and who's out. The numbers at the bottom of these credit card bills and the worry lines around our eyes and mouth. Just ask anyone. Nothing is happening except headlines and a new season on Netflix, and the rumblings of wars near and far. Then we squint. There you are, shimmering at the edges of some extravagant act of love. There you are, quickening our steps towards you, surprising favorites, the weak and the poor and scared, the lasts becoming firsts, those who can't squeeze through the eye of the needle. There you are, calling us strong when we are weak, telling us to link arms with those who suffer, explaining how justice will invert the order of things. The world feels solid through and through, God. Help me squint and see you better. And I just love that, Chelsea, because I feel like that was the first 7 episodes of this season. Dude. Of these people that see God everywhere.
Take a deep breath, unclench your jaw, help me see you better. Like that. Like, amen, man. Amen. I love that.
Well, we love you, Dropouts. Thanks for recapping with us. We'll see you next week.
Love you guys.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Religious Dropouts podcast. Take a moment to relax your shoulders, unclench your jaw, and take a deep inhale. As you exhale, focus on releasing any remaining tension in your physical body. We're so glad that you are here with us today for this conversation. We hope you are able to laugh, to unpack some of your past experiences and trauma, and that you're able to find some hope to look forward to the future. We'd love for you to connect with us on social media and at our new website, religiousdropouts.com. And as always, we would love for you to share this podcast with a friend or anyone you know who might need to understand how good it feels to be a dropout. You are so loved. Have a great week.